Okay, we're out on YouTube. Let me get the record. Okay. So I call the June 25th workshop meeting of the Town of Rochester Town Board to order. We'll do the pledge to the flag. I'll turn it toward the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
of the United States of America
and to the republic
republic,
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for
Okay, Kate, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Anawen? Councilman Hagen DePew?
here.
Councilman Hewitt?
Here.
Councilman Paddock? Supervisor Baden?
Here. Okay, Mary Lou, I don't have that statement in front of me. Is it okay if I paraphrase it, or do you have it handy to read?
I have it back in my
just say-
emails from March. No,
I can just say, can I
just
just say, we're
paraphrase.
convening this meeting in accordance with the governor's executive order suspending open meetings laws. And the town clerk has taken a roll, and it has been advertised in the Shangam Journal, on the town website, and on the clerk's door. So
that works.
okay. First order of business was a resolution. I emailed you all an additional agenda today. My apologies for the last minute. I will read the resolution. This is the recommended resolution. Town Board authorizes Brianna Tetro, Planning and Zoning Secretary, to work up to 5 hours per week, not to exceed, actually, up to an additional 5 hours per week, not to exceed 40 hours per week at her regular pay rate from June 28, 2020 through, and it should have said August 29, 2020, to assist the Building and Code Enforcement Office. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, explanation. With us doing halftime for quite some time, Becky got very, very far behind. She is being bombarded with building permits, abstract requests from title search companies, and needs a little help. So Brianna has offered to assist her. Brianna works 28 hours a week, so I've authorized up to 5 hours a week, and that would take us through the month of July and August. I said we'd revisit it then to see where we are, but the office is just nonstop, the phone ringing, emails, so just trying to help them get ahead so they don't get further behind. Any other questions? This will cost us probably, and I didn't do the math, but probably in the neighborhood of about $700. So if there's no further discussion, Kate, do a roll call vote.
Councilwoman Anawen? Aye. Councilman Hagen DePew?
Aye.
Councilman Hewitt?
Aye.
Councilman Paddock? Supervisor Baden?
Aye. Okay, thank you. I'll let Jerry and Becky and Brianna know tomorrow, and I know they thank you. So discussion items. It's a lengthy list. What I'm proposing is we just knock them off one at a time, and that we keep this meeting to no more than 2 hours. So we'll get as far as we get. I put some things on the end that I want us to talk about at some point. Question for the board. Jerry Fernino is in the waiting room. I think there was a mix-up that he thought the committee was supposed to come tonight. Should I admit him and just let him know, or what do you
Maybe
want
he
to do?
just wants to hear this.
Could be,
Maybe.
could
May
be.
not be anything. Could be something simple.
Okay. We'll admit him for the moment, and I'll keep it on mute. So, okay, so First item of business is the constabulary discussion. Aaron, that was your resolution, so I guess I'll turn it over to you to begin.
Sure. So I read the resolution at our last meeting. I'd be happy to do it again if the board members would like, but really what I was trying to do is outline a process for the board for us to take as a guide for how we want to approach the process of reviewing the department. And when we started this, it was something that I think the board was doing kind of on their own. And now I think there's a lot more, I feel like a lot of community awareness and involvement in wanting to review the department. But now I feel like there's also a broader community investment in this. And I think a lot of communities in Ulster County are reviewing their law enforcement departments. So I thought it would be good for us to just outline the process, and that's what I did. And we heard back from Mary Lou that though the Governor Cuomo's executive order sort of requiring police forces to adopt a plan that engage stakeholders in a public and open process doesn't technically apply, we can still include that as a town. We can say that we'd like to follow those guidelines. So do you guys want me to read this again or do a screen share of it? Or do you feel like we can just open up the discussion?
I think we can, for my take, I think we can just open it up unless somebody wants to see it up on the screen.
And I would also add that I wanted to just get something down for the board to work on. I think some things came up in our last meeting that we could make some edits and revisions and discuss them further. So it is a starting place.
Right. Can I stop you for 1 minute and just let Mary Lou weigh in on that, the governor's order? So.
Sure. The governor's order only applies to police departments. We are peace officers, different section of the law than police departments. So we are not required to follow that order, but you certainly can use that as a guideline for your review.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I think it's a good thing that we do that. I would like to pursue some sort of public forum, how that manifests itself. I don't have a great vision on or a feel for it. I think you and Chris have some ideas, and I'm open to discussion on them. You know, I don't really know how it, you know, it certainly shouldn't be a public hearing per se. I want it to be more, in my opinion, Mike Baden's opinion, more interactive. Whether it be a sort of panel discussion, you know, I'm not sure what that actually brings, but I'm not sure what it doesn't bring either. You know, I'm not saying it very well, but I'm certainly open to ideas.
I like the idea of a moderator and discussion, some give and take, and some experts. And I also like B's suggestion last meeting to wait for feedback from Jerry, Ron, and Anne Marie, and then that feedback can even be discussed during the forum. And I also like Aaron's suggestion about a process behind this. So maybe we break out the resolution to be passable by next meeting as a process. And then the forum, Aaron and I can continue talking to partners and keeping you all in the loop of who we are thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if I can add one thing that I sort of envision it being two I don't want to say two separate things, but I think the report that we're asking Jerry, Anne Marie, and Ron to produce is one aspect of it. But we were pretty specific in asking them to review the existing policy documents and the recommendations from Pete Volkman, and to utilize their law enforcement administrative background to sort of direct us in be our advisors of law enforcement. I think what can come out of the forum and the committee is more discussion of what does the community want in peace officers? You know, what are the pluses? What are the pros and the cons? What can they do to help the community? And certainly they were never intended, at least in my opinion, to replace the sheriff and the state police. And I know many people say that that's kind of what was the goal, but at least in my mind, it was never the goal. I wasn't here when they were created, and none of us were, except maybe Mary Lou. I don't think, B, you weren't even on the board yet when this was.
I wasn't on the board yet, no, but I have a pretty good idea what went on.
Well, so do I. I was at many of the meetings myself. But my point is having a conversation with the community about the role is not necessarily bad. I think it's a good thing, but I also think that in general, there are certain forces out there right now that are just have one goal, and that's remove it, end it. And I want to be sure in whatever forum we do that it becomes a listening and a discussion, and not just a stand up and complain session, because to me that's not productive.
I think that's actually why I'm thinking a panel would be very valuable, because I think it would be a way to have people who have experience in this, where it might be a different perspective from what we're already doing, but maybe some other things that we could see, sort of like envision our community wanting, and that discussion could help model the way we would like the question and answer period, could help contain that so that it is very as respectful and clear and direct and moderated, so that we're really staying on topic, and that it's not, because really what we don't want to just hear one perspective, we want to hear multiple, so that we can bring that all together and really serve the community, the whole community.
And I'm not sure it should be a focus on the report. I think it should focus on the general topic of constables, and to me, the report is one tool that the board is, because ultimately the board is going to make these decisions.
Yep.
Of where we head and what we do.
Yeah.
So
I've seen good moderators keep the drama or the tension at bay by having one example is just having a big board where every idea goes on it, so people feel listened to and like their idea got on the board, and that's a good listening forum to not be like, that's a little bit crazy right now, but we'll put any idea on the board.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris,
Oh, can I,
Yeah, please do.
when
Pete.
you're done?
Hey, hang on, let me
Mike.
see if this owner is possibly
Okay.
Adam. I don't know.
Okay,
Go ahead, B. I'll try to call
It's
him
all
real
right.
quick and find out
Aaron,
if that's him.
Chris, would you be opposed? And I'm asking this, there's so many facets, like Adam said, in this resolution. Would you be willing to set the George Floyd as its own resolution, and then consolidate your points about the constabulary in another set of resolutions, all following in a process? But the reason it says here, police forces must adopt a plan and certify that they have. As we found out through Mary Lou with the law, we don't have a police force. What I'm asking you to do is revise this to fit the current information that we have received, not leaving out the thoughts about Mr. Floyd, but taking that ahead of the constabulary procedure. Does that
Yeah.
make?
Oh, I
Oh,
see,
yeah.
like leading with that, having, I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm
breaking it
saying
out.
lead with that, make that like a resolution unto itself, and maybe stop where we say, where you said unbiased, just, and transparent, or whatever. You've got your copy there. I'm saying leave that as one portion.
Yeah, I
And,
think I would follow Aaron's lead and like you said, Aaron, maybe by next week we can make some adjustments as a board, share the share the language with each other. But I'll follow Aaron's lead on that, breaking it out.
and do we have to, you want to adopt a process, I understand that, but can we keep police officers out of it because we're not legally correct titling them police officers?
Yeah, I wanted to just, I think I had just two questions, because I want to understand what you're saying. First on
Okay.
that, oh, I'm sorry, were you not done?
No, that's okay. Go ahead. I'll wait to see, and then if I have more, I'll know
okay.
better.
Just your latter question about taking the word, the police forces. Are you suggesting we take the idea that, because what I said is, whereas the town board recognizes that though may it not technically apply, our town constabulary review process should match the spirit of the process outlined by an executive order.
Aaron, if I could ask one question, take out the word technically. It just, it makes it feel like we're trying to avert something.
Okay.
Maybe Mary Lou can guide you on the language for that, but
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you saying maybe like keep that in B, but quote that executive order after,
Yeah.
it says police forces? Yeah.
Yeah. Can we take that piece out and somehow say well, what I wanted to add to this, if I could, just so, and maybe this will help. I'm not sure. I don't know if you were aware, well, you're aware now that obviously it's not covered under the executive order, but what the constables have done for 8 years is exceed what the governor is asking anyway. They've done the enforcement, and have you read the constabulary's mission statement?
Mhm.
Not only have they done what's in the mission statement for the time that they've existed, they've exceeded that. And I just wanted it, I'd like to somehow for this to say that they have done this and we're still exploring how we want to proceed for the future or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I'd
When I
like to
spoke
give them the credit that they've done this already. The law states they're not governed by the governor's executive order, but they have already, in their own way, they've exceeded with their mission statement the need.
Mhm.
And then we can go on to say we have been investigating. This is just me. You can put this however you want. We have been investigating this, and then put Mr. Volkman gave us the report, and go forward from there to say how we're going to proceed, and put the committee. Mike, I don't know which is the better way.
I mean, I think Aaron, if you're going to be the point person on this, I'd ask you kind of work with Mary Lou. We have a little advantage in that our next board meeting, quick reminder, is not Thursday because that's the day before the holiday. So we're meeting on Monday, the 6th. So, but I also don't want to wait till the last minute with this. So maybe Aaron, in the next few days or early next week, you and Mary Lou could just email back and forth, get some language. I think what we should do, Aaron, is we should reference the governor's executive order,
Right.
then reference that this does not apply to peace officers, but then say, in light of the spirit of this executive order, the board desires to do whatever it is,
What we already set
we're
up
gonna
to do.
propose.
We
Yeah.
were already established,
Yeah.
Mike, going forward to
Yeah.
examine this stuff anyway.
Exactly.
We were out front of the governor's order.
No, exactly. We were. I mean, we've been talking about these things for 2 years, honestly, to be honest, and we've been trying to hone in. And Aaron, you may want to reach out to Jerry Davis and have a conversation with him about exactly how the constables do help the building department and things like that, because
Yeah,
those are really important factors that are hard to necessarily put into words so much unless you know exactly what it is they're doing and the cost and time savings. Chris, I think have I mentioned to you, and I don't want to say the person's name on the video because I have not spoken to them, but I did share with Aaron my idea of a moderator, and it's somebody who has great experience in this process. And I
That's
don't
great.
remember if I said it to you or not, Chris, but
No,
I
you
definitely
didn't.
said
You
it to
didn't tell
Aaron.
me. That's great.
Yeah. But
And I just wanted to echo what B was saying, because when I spoke to Tyrone Wilson last week from the county, he said when he met with the town of Rosendale chief of police, he was talking about how their department goes above and beyond. They excel as police officers. So Tyrone
Exactly.
was saying that's part of the process, is to highlight when that happens,
right.
so that other departments can be that good also.
That's exactly my point.
Right.
I didn't go about it that way, Chris,
Mhm.
but that's what I'm saying. If they're saying the same thing, then it makes sense if we promoted that as well. I mean, hence you've just promoted them.
Yeah.
We can
I mean,
promote that
the
feeling as well.
phone calls that we get when, somebody comes home from vacation and finds their garage door open and is concerned, it's, maybe the sheriff or state police are going to come. Maybe they're not able to,
Mhm.
I don't want to call example to one particular person, but that person was very thankful that the constable came and stayed with them while they went in their house. And it turned out that they had left the garage door open the whole time they were gone, but they didn't realize they did.
And hence the thing, they are more of a person to person. That's what I'd like the community to get the idea of.
Yeah.
They are a peace force, not a police force.
Right. And I really do want to explore the idea of this parking violation unit. Right now, the way we are set up, we can only issue a ticket to a person. We can't issue a ticket to a vehicle because we don't have that ability in our law. Towpath Road is a prime example. I can tell you, I field probably 4 or 5 calls a day. I've been doing daily drive-bys 3-4 times a day, to the point the other day I stood at the top of the road and sort of hollered down to people, please, these cars over here to the right are all parked fine. These cars to the left that are parked on the road, you need to move. And I came back an hour later and 2 of them had moved. One just stayed there, but I wasn't going to engage. But the neighbors there are calling, people are trespassing on their property. This is the kind of stuff that it's not, I don't want to say the sheriff and the state police aren't going to come, but they're going to come do a drive-by. And then once they leave, 5 minutes later, it's back to what it was. So
Trails End has equally become a hot spot.
yeah, it's quality, and those are quality of life issues. They're not crime,
They're not crime.
They may
per
be
se.
against the law, but they're not crime. And we're not gonna, can't rely on the sheriff and the state police for those kind of things.
well, and I think there's a lot, I think that we have a lot of really good ideas. And I think part of the idea behind outlining a process is to show the residents of the town, the way we want to approach this.
Mhm.
And I think having a public forum or panel discussion is one way that we can also highlight, I think when I had a lot of people asking me questions about the constabulary, this was before I was on the board, and I brought up that they handle neighbor to neighbor disputes. When I tell people that, they are like, oh, like that's something that we have in our town.
Mhm.
And I think being able to highlight that and even expand on it, and I reviewed, I don't know if we have that, procedure in our manual, and really showing that that's like what one of the big things that I'm using it as an example, that we want our constables to handle. So I think part of the process is that we get all these ideas both among ourselves, from a forum where we might get ideas from people who have even more creative ideas than we do about what a peace officer program can look like. Then as a board, we can then decide what we exactly revise that list or create it, as this board, taking what we like, maybe changing what we don't. And then I think I'm seeing an opportunity to maybe even go back to, that we're going to get the recommendations from our committee, but we might even then want to build on that again once we have that list, because we might have some new things that we want to build out. And so I see this, that's sort of how I'm seeing it, as a big, we want to come full circle with this process.
I have a question for you, Erin. How do you see this committee commingling in this? If we have asked and paid for a professional opinion from Mr. Volkman, now we are asking, it's a professional opinion of sorts with the 3 people on the committee, with their law enforcement. They're doing it for free. We now have 2 sets of references. How do you see this affecting, or these things playing in with your public forum?
Well, I guess what I originally outlined in the process was that we would consider the report from our committee and the panel event. So I see our committee is really handling that, the sort of part of the report that's about the more nitty gritty. And then I see the public forum as being more a visioning sort of thing. And I think we can bring those things together, just like we would do in, with any problem. We would want to consider both of those perspectives.
Okay. My final question, I have another question. If you had the experience that these people had, and you were asked to serve on a committee, and the board had asked you to do that, and you're going to put all this work into this, correct? You're going to invest your time. 3 people are going to invest their time. Granted, it's not costing us anything, but it's costing them their time. How would you feel if then the board decided to go and take another forum and bring into this?
Another forum
A panel, another,
Erin,
a public.
can you let me answer that real quick? Because I have a pretty.
Sure.
Let's say, for example, we had a zoning committee, which I served on and ran. At the end of the day, in that case, because it was made a local law, there was a public hearing, a public comment period.
That's a requirement.
Yeah, understood. But I don't see this as being any different than that. And I sort of agree with Erin. They're 2 separate pieces that we're combining to come out with, we're looking for advisement. We're looking for advisement. We got it from Mr. Volkman. Now we're looking for the committee to advise us. And we're asking the public to also advise us. I don't view anyone as superseding or overruling the other one. I think then it's up to us to take all this information and decide where we go.
Have we asked the 3 people on the board how they feel about this? On the committee?
Have we
Yeah,
directly?
yeah.
The answer to directly,
Well,
no. But I have
do you
talked
think,
to all 3 this week. So,
and at that time, were they aware of the discussion for this evening and that there would
yes,
probably
yes, because I'll be honest, there was a misunderstanding is that they thought they were being asked to be present at this meeting, which is why I was asking the question about bringing in Mr. Cornino. I clarified with all 3 of
okay.
them that that was not our request at all, that we were just discussing this as a town board,
Okay,
had nothing to do with the committee. We've charged them, we've handed them what we're asking them to do, and they're going through with their process.
And just to
I,
add to that a little
oh,
bit,
sorry.
B, so I have an advisory board of about 20 people on my nonprofit. And when I have a really hard decision to make, I call about 10 of them and I get all these perspectives. And sometimes if I need a little more perspective or a different angle, I'll call an additional person. And so I
You're
don't
doing
think that,
this for yourself. You're doing this for your own input. We're doing this publicly, as of course we're required to do. And
sure.
I just wondered, I would like to know how the 3 people that we've asked to be on this committee feel about this. If they feel in any way put off by this, that's what I'd like to know. It's just a question that I have. I mean, how far down the road are we going to kick this can, so to speak?
I don't think we're asking the public to do the same thing that we're asking them to do. The public doesn't have the years and years and years of administrative experience. I mean, between those 3 people, I would venture if we're not at 100 years administrative experience, we're probably pretty darn close.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But they look at it from different perspectives. We're asking them to tell us how we should be running a law enforcement agency, admittedly a peace officer agency, but
I
we're asking
understand.
them to, we're asking the public to, we're asking the public to weigh in.
Go ahead.
So,
Also, I think ultimately it's our job to decide what we want the constabulary to be. Like as a board, this is a job we were elected to do, and we can use all the tools at our disposal. And I think that's just what I'm proposing that we do, that we take the committee that we formed, and then we also bring it to a public process, I think, and not after we've decided what we want them to do, but before, because I think it's really valuable that we bring the community along in this, that people see the things that they've voiced, that they see that in what we create. And I think we'll also see the recommendations that the committee is going to come up with in what we do as well. And I think it's just going to be, I think we need more of this so that we're really considering the perspectives. OB, you're muted.
I know. I just realized that. I'm putting questions out there, trying to look at all the sides. And like I said, there are many facets to the resolution that you made. And if we could just define it to like maybe 2, what you want to do with the constabulary process, and then the tribute, if you will, or whatever you would call it. That's it. I'm done.
I think B is asking that we don't sort of commingle the 2 topics, so that we kind of keep, yeah. And
I was trying to
think
clean it.
I would support that. So does anybody else want to have any more input on it, questions? If not, Aaron, I think you're off to a great start. I would say, kind of hone it down as best you can.
Yeah, I will rework this with everyone's input. I'll work with Mary Lou, and then I'll try to get a new draft out to you guys well ahead of our next meeting.
I know how long it took to do this. I know how much is on a piece of paper. I know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Chris. I don't know how to do that, Chris, or I'd do it. That's cute.
I don't know how to get rid of it. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, there it is. I don't know how to do that. So.
I just learned.
Yeah, well, I've got me reversed on the screen tonight. I'm actually a mirror image. I hit a button somewhere earlier. Oh,
Okay, if that's good for that, we'll move on to the next, the tobacco-free locations. Next week at the meeting, I'm gonna do a resolution. I wanted to share you the information and how this came about. I got a email this week from the Ulster County Tobacco Free Coalition, basically telling me that we had done a resolution back a while ago. Went online and found the resolution and sent you a copy of it, where the town designated the town park as a tobacco-free zone. This agency is offering us free signage to put up around the park, which I think is great. Wanted to throw out, do we want to consider, obviously indoors are tobacco-free zones automatically under health laws, but did we want to consider readopting that resolution and making it be all town properties, indoors and outdoors? In which case we would probably want to add more signage, order more signs. Also, their signs now show vaping, which when this resolution was adopted, either didn't exist or was not what it is today. So I just wanted to throw out for discussion the board's thought. I mean, I think getting free signage is a no-brainer, but if you want to take it a step or two further, I figured I'd throw it out there.
the only question I have, Mike, is I think a lot of people know they can't smoke in government areas or whatever. Does that mean, and maybe I'm stupid, I hate smoke, so let me just say that right out front. Can they smoke in their cars then? How does that work?
Mary Lou, you want to weigh in? I don't know.
Yeah, we discussed this way back when.
Okay.
If they are town vehicles, for example, highway
Oh,
department,
No, I don't mean to.
you don't mean,
They're
oh, you
personal
mean if somebody comes to
Personal
the,
vehicle, obviously not in town vehicles.
okay, all right. That I do not know. I do not know, but I can find out,
I just
or we can
was-
clarify. If you make it, another resolution, we can clarify that.
Places I'm thinking about, we've got the transfer station. I mean, to be honest, I would hope people, as they were throwing their garbage
Whew,
away
yeah.
or throwing away their paper recycling, I would hope they weren't smoking anyway, because the last thing I want is a lit cigarette falling in a dumpster. But we could do that. We've got the kiln area behind the community center, which that's not included in there. Right now, it's designated specifically as the town park. The rail trail, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. We could expand it to any of these if we wanted to. I'm throwing it out to see what you think. I personally, I am a non-smoker. I've lived with smokers, but I'm a non-smoker, and I would prefer that people don't. And I think this day and age, a vast majority of people either don't smoke or the ones that don't like to be around it. It has been recognized as a health hazard. So I'm just throwing it out as we could just be as simple as just get the signs for the park and leave it at that, or we could take it a step further. So
I also, don't enjoy being around in places where there's a lot of cigarette smoke, but it is legal for people to smoke.
correct.
And so I guess my first question would be, and I don't have any way of knowing this, so I don't know if you do either, Mike, is do we currently have an issue with people smoking on town property?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I have seen people smoking in the park when they're there with their kids.
And that is a smoke-free zone.
Well, it is, but it's not posted in any way. A
not,
resolution was passed and that was the end of it. So,
Oh, okay.
And only the fact that I vaguely remembered the resolution and went back and and I can tell you, don't Google search the word tobacco in our minutes, because our community center is on
Oh, yeah,
Tobacco
it's
Road.
Mm.
So it shows
That's
up a lot of
ironic.
places.
I think it's a good conversation to have. I like the idea of moving forward on
We could
signage.
just do the signs for now and have further conversation about further. I just figured it opened the door to me ask the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea also of keeping it away from children, but the
Mhm.
whole rail trail seems excessive.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Would you
I
want
have
to
to
maybe
agree
expand
with
it though
this.
to the community outdoors on the community center property? I think that would be realistic.
I would agree with that.
I
And
agree.
maybe if we said outdoors on the town hall property, I don't know. We could just leave it at town park for now. There is no actual boundary really of the town park. It's sort of a natural boundary that creates itself. Um, I mean, I'm not looking if somebody is coming in, pulls in the parking lot and gets out to come in the clerk's office and has a cigarette. If they put it out before they come in the building, I don't think that's a big issue.
I think people are doing that mostly on their own. This no smoking has been around a bit.
And again, the only reason this came up is we had an offer of free signage. So
I like the free signage.
yeah, they said, how many do you want and which signs would you like? So I sent you the examples too, if
Yes.
you want to look at them.
Yes.
So, okay. Moving on to deep hole. I touched on this already when we were talking about the constabulary. I field probably 8-10 calls a week from people driving down there. 2 years ago, we looked at banning parking totally there. Chris, I think you were on the board at the time when we talked about it. You'll remember we compromised and we said you can continue to park
Yep.
on the creek side with the exception of the 15 or 25-foot wide area where the fire department has a right of way for access to get water. And on the opposite side of the creek, we made it no parking. People have seen, I've been there. I have not been there on a hot weekend day. I've been there on a couple Sunday afternoons when it was medium heat. I've been there on weekdays. People seem to be honoring the no parking across the street. The parking on the creek side, the majority of people are doing a really good job of getting their wheels off the pavement, or they're just a little on the pavement. However, as soon as you get past Deep Hole, it grows right back out again. And when anybody parks there, you end up with cars that all four wheels are on the paved road. And it's cut down to a lane and a quarter at best, probably, when that happens. Certainly not enough that two cars can even pass each other, let alone a fire truck or an ambulance and a car. And last time I was there, which was yesterday, I counted about 18 cars. It's not just a few people. It's a popular place. I get it. It's private property. Aaron, you weren't on the board then. It is private property, but it's owned by people who apparently don't care that people swim there. They have not posted it to my knowledge. The property both before and after that are posted. And I have been contacted by one of those neighbors because what happens is people park, as it fills up, people park down on their property and they have instances of people going to the bathroom on their property, which is, definitely not something we want. And there's an awful lot of garbage being left there too. We can't say they can't enter the property unless the owners say they can't. So I don't know. Mary Lou, do you want to weigh in on this? I'm at the weekends right now, while the constables are doing the Minnewaska patrol, I'm asking them to do a few drive-bys through there. They are. I've done some drive-bys myself. Some people seem to be willing to honor the request and accept it. Others want to, have a confrontation. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure where, I know that the one side of the street is no parking. The creeks, or the water side, there is parking, but the only thing I can really think that we can do is on these areas where there's four wheels on the road because there's no room to pull over. maybe you want to institute those areas as no parking as well.
Yeah, I've thought about that. It's really hard to designate because other than just putting the signs up there in the local law, it's hard to designate because, like our local law says from the,
Right, yeah.
like the Project 32 one says from Granite Road to the terminus of Project 32. That's easy
Mhm.
to say exactly where. I guess we would have to put up signs and say, and reference the signs in the local law. People do seem to honor the fire department, except for a couple people. One gentleman decided he was really going to challenge. His answer to me was, I know why these signs are here. It's okay. I can park here. That was his answer to me.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, the fire district has been asked, because I will tell you, the fire district has also been one of the people calling us saying, please keep that area open if we need to get in there. And
I know we can't like name any names, but I wonder do we know anyone who regularly frequents Depot that is invested in it that we could talk to about maybe being a sort of
oh, sure.
ambassador that, much. I'm thinking about the spring where people are very invested in the spring.
Mhm.
In
We had a very active public meeting, a public hearing when we had the public hearing on this local law. And, we had a full house that night and quite a few people came out. And because of that public hearing, we kind of made the concession to, okay, we'll do it one side of the street. And we kind of got assurance that people would work with us. I will tell you, the few times I've been there, I have not seen any of those people there. That doesn't mean that they're not there. Because I'm not looking to engage people. I'm looking to just keep cars moving.
right.
Yeah. And
So
to add to that, Mike, Elaine Laflamme and a few volunteers were doing statistics of how often cars came, how much garbage they would find. That group, I think, would be happy to be ambassadors again, because at the
Mhm.
time they were doing research about how much parking we should restrict. But I
Mhm.
feel like there needs to be someone like you did, Mike, like, did you know you can't park here?
Yeah.
And you can't do it all the time.
Right. And I will say, 2/3 of the people, the one moved his vehicle, and I know it's a he because I watched him do it. One was gone when I came back, so either they just chose to leave or they were finished swimming. And the third one was still there, but I wasn't about to go back and say, hey, I told you to move your car. I just sort of chalked it up to, okay, fine. I see how it is. So
If there's a way to figure out how to designate where those 4 wheels on the ground areas are, make that no parking. You can talk to Jeff and see if it's possible to put some kind of barricades or cones in those areas, because that's better than a car.
yeah. Well, I actually considered talking to Jeff to see what the cost would be to put a guardrail up in those areas. I mean, it wouldn't be to prevent people from going in the stream, but it would prevent people from parking there. Because if there's a
Would this
guardrail, they
person,
can't.
would we be encroaching on the person who owns the property's rights then if we as a town put stuff there?
No, because we have a right of way over a certain number of feet
Okay,
along the
good.
edge of the road. I mean, Jeff would put it near the drainage ditch. I mean, I would certainly speak with him on that and decide where it should go.
And you definitely would let talk to the neighbors before. It wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, this is area where there are no homes. This is just
Mhm.
along the stream.
Mhm.
It doesn't help that these are large parcels and people's homes are, people own both sides of the road.
Right.
In many cases along there, there's some large tracts of land. The people who own where actual Depot is, their tax address is a different state, and I'm told that they actually live out of the country, even that they don't live even in the country. I don't know that for a fact, but so okay. I guess we have a few ideas. Let me chat with Jeff, I guess, some more and see what his feeling is. My feeling about the cones, Mary Lou, is they just would get moved.
They'll steal them.
They also, if you do put road cones out, they have to be a certain height. That's a legal thing. You can't just, they can't be the real short ones.
Right, that's what I'm
I
saying. You'd
believe
have
they
to
have
talk
to be
to
a
Jeff
minimum
about
of
that.
2 or 3 feet high. I'm not entirely sure of the height, but they have to be significantly tall so people can see them.
Would you guys be okay with me trying to follow up with, I could look up that public hearing and try and follow up with some
I
people?
can even offline give you names. I don't want to
Okay.
name names
Yeah,
and put
totally.
people under pressure
But
right
I
now.
could
But
just bring this issue up with them again and see if
yeah,
they
and I
might
can
be
tell you there are a
interested
number of
in-
people that you will have no trouble getting in touch with. So
Okay,
Now, Chris had mentioned Judge LaFlame from before. I think that, if people get tickets, they could end up before her. So let's
yeah, we should keep her out of this.
keep her
Absolutely.
out of that because there's a definite potential conflict.
yeah, she
Right.
wasn't a judge when this.
Right,
first happened.
right.
Correct.
That was back in the olden days.
Correct. Okay, next, Mary Lou, I'm going to turn this American Waterworks thing over to you because I don't really totally understand it.
Well, it looks to me, and I just have what you guys have, that I think you're right, Mike. I think it's that one maybe by Lucas.
I believe it is.
Okay. It looks to me like they want to sell their water company to someone else because it's a public service commission thing. We get to comment. In their paperwork, they said that they've already received about 40 comments. I'm not sure who they're from. And it's not just on our town. There's towns all over the state
I
that
can
are apparently
email.
going to purchase this, that have water companies that this company is going to purchase.
I can email everybody the link to the case with the Public Service Commission.
I was going to say, I
The
want to look
reason-
at that.
Yeah, the
and-
reason we got it is the Public Service Commission just got involved. But if you look, when you click on the link, it's a case number and you go back, it's been going on since early this year. I think it was January or February when this all initiated. And there's a fair amount of documentation about it. I think it's the company that Esposito's owned at one time, but I believe they sold
okay.
it. And dating back to Kate, this was when Ronnie was still town clerk, but you might remember, it's back when Randy Hornbeck was on the board and Tom Ryan and Ron Santosky. I don't know if it was Pam or Harold's era, but they did approach the town about taking it over.
They have various times they've
Yeah,
approached,
and
and
it
the
was
town's
a,
always said no.
It was a resounding no.
Right.
The town did not want to take it over. So
And it does say that there's been 40 comments throughout the state, not just on our area, and maybe none on our area. I don't know. Mostly about, well, we'd like a municipality to take it over. I think if you want to make a comment, if you still don't want to take it over, which we don't have any water districts. We don't have the equipment, the personnel, or anything to take that over. I think that if we are not interested in taking it over, that may be a comment we want to make.
do you remember the deadline for comments, Mary Lou, though? I don't think it was too far into July. It was.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
Let
me see if I can pull up your.
Yeah, because I may need to ask for a resolution then to make that comment tonight. And it appears this company owns a number of water companies, and this new company, it looks like, are taking them all over.
Right.
You want me to move on and we'll come back while you're looking?
Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
looking on my phone for your email.
Okay. Yeah, sorry
I was
about
trying to look on the screen underneath and I didn't find it very
Yeah.
quickly either.
June 29th, it says.
that. Oh, there you
No,
go.
I'm on the email. I just have to figure out which
No.
one of the, oh, June
No,
20
Aaron just said June 29th is the deadline for
Is
comments.
that the deadline for comments? Okay, well,
So
there
with
you
that
go.
being
Thank
said,
you, Aaron.
then I guess I'll ask the board to make a resolution to express that we do not desire to take over the water company, and I'll just leave it at that and not explain any further. So I'll make that resolution in a second,
I'll
Second.
second.
and you'll authorize the supervisor to convey that.
Yeah, I'll modify my second.
Any discussion, Kate, or I mean, any further discussion? If not, Kate, roll call.
Councilwoman Nowen,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hagen DePew,
Aye.
Councilman Hewitt,
Aye.
Councilman Paddock, Supervisor Baden.
Aye. Okay. I will send that email tomorrow or letter. Rec department request. This is more informational. The recreation staff has been working diligently on putting together instructional videos. Ashley is very excited. She came over and told me all about it the other day. They have one almost completed. They're working on their second. They asked about putting this up on YouTube. I said, absolutely. I'm going to work with Aaron I'm going to create another YouTube channel just for recreation, just so this doesn't get lost and intermingled in all the meetings that are on our current town YouTube channel. So Aaron says it's pretty easy to set up, and I'm going to set it up. Ashley said that they'd be willing to screen anything before us if we wanted, but I have full confidence in them. We've never micromanaged their normal projects of what they do. I think it'll be fine. So and so far there's no cost to the town. So they're just using ideas and products that they have already. So anyway, that's really all that I was wanted to let you know about that. Also, one other thing before I forget, tomorrow, the high school class of 2020 is doing a caravan that is starting at the college, going through Rosendale, and where am I getting an echo from?
I say, is somebody watching on YouTube as well?
I don't think I am. Let me double check.
No, I'm getting the echo as well, Mike.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
muted, so it's not my TV.
Yeah, it was definitely Mike's voice repeating itself, so
Yeah,
we can hear it twice. That's good, I guess, right?
yeah, I guess so. That went
It's
away.
gone now.
Okay, it's gone. Starting at the college at 4:45, it's going through Stone Ridge, Rosendale, working its way down Lucas, connecting it's going to go through, I believe, through Algerville, connecting anyway to 209 and coming down 209. Jeff has agreed, we're going to park one of the big highway dump trucks at the old grocery store by the traffic light on 209 and Main Street there. Ashley made a big banner that says, congratulations, class of 2020. And we're going to hang the Town of Rochester Recreation Department banner also. And Jeff and I'll be there if anybody wants to join us. And I'm going to email all the town employees tomorrow, let them know about it, to honor the graduates. And the plan is they're going all the way down through Kerhonkson, then back to the high school where they will get their diplomas handed to them at the high school at the end of this. I think I read it was 32-mile caravan they're doing. So
Everybody
people know.
fill their gas tanks before they leave.
Anybody wants to join in at the spot there by the old grocery store, and Jeff and I did contact the owner and they gave us permission to do it. So we thought it would be a great location right there over the bridge on the turn. So
What time does it start, Mike?
the route starts at 4:45. Based on the fact of what it took us for our Memorial Day parade, I would say the earliest you're going to see him there is about 5:45, maybe even not until 6. So I'd say if but depending on where you're coming from, you would probably be able to come right down Main Street and you wouldn't get caught up in any traffic, but you probably would want to be there between 5:30 and 5:45 if you wanted to join in. IT RFP, it has been out. I also put it up on the New York State Contract Reporter. Got quite a bit of interest. We did a questions and clarification statement that was emailed out to anybody who asked for it. I emailed all of you a copy. Those were based on questions that I received from the time it was submitted to the 19th. Originally, the cutoff date was the 16th for the questions and clarifications, but because the contract reporter account was still in Carl's name and it took them several days to get it transferred to my name, I only got it up on the 16th and I didn't think that was fair. So I emailed everybody and let them know that I was extending the comments and clarifications until the 19th. And we've answered them. And Kate, have you had anybody ask for those? I've emailed them, I think, to everybody who asked for them. So I think they all got them.
No.
All that being said, we did get back one reply already by email, and I anticipate we're going to have several replies back by next week. What I plan to do is get those hard copies to all of you as quickly as possible. We did say that we would pick no later than, I think, the 16th of July. But if I can get them to you right away, possibly all of you can read and score them before the 6th, and we could have awarded at the meeting on the 6th. Maybe a little ambitious, maybe we have to have a special meeting, but that's my goal, is to shoot for that when everything is due on the 30th, to get them all to you and let you guys start scoring. So Spectrum and broadband. I sent you the copy of our current franchise agreement with Time Warner, which is Spectrum now. Bear in mind that's for Cablevision, not broadband. There are no franchise agreements on broadband, and Time Warner Spectrum is quick to remind us of that their franchise agreement is Cablevision, not broadband. We're about halfway into that franchise agreement. It expires in 2025. A lot of people are looking for broadband that don't have it. I would estimate, based on the mapping that we do know that we have, is about 70% of the town probably has the ability to have broadband. Whether they choose to pay for it or not is another story, but they do have the ability. It's that other 30% or 25% or whatever it actually is. It's the gaps are really the problem. In many places, the lines come in from two sides, and then there's a gap in the middle. And you saw in our contract, there are some specific roads that they were supposed to fulfill, along with some others, but they're also obligated to do it automatically for free if any areas exceed so many houses per mile. And I don't know that they're actually adhering to that or not. So
Mike, that was my question. Do we know how many homes per mile? Because in the contract prior.
We know how many homes per mile in the contract. What we don't know is how many homes per mile we have. And also, I don't know how they calculate that. Do they calculate that from where the end of the run is? Or what? I mean, Mary Lou, you've been through this before. Do you have
Maybe
any
the
idea?
road.
I do not remember. I did know at some point. I can find out for you.
Yeah.
I do think that, one of the strategies that we should definitely employ with this is putting pressure on Spectrum to fulfill the requirements under their contract, because I'm hearing from a lot of people that they don't have a lot of oversight, and that this is something that comes up a lot. And
I will say,
it could save us
sorry,
money.
Aaron, go ahead.
I was just saying it could, after, we'll figure out what we want to do, but if we can put pressure by proving to them that they're supposed to provide service, then we actually don't even have to spend taxpayer money at all.
So Mary Lou, maybe if you can find out where the mileage in that, is it by
Right, how the mile
road?
is count, right.
Where's the start and end of the mile is the question. Because some of their service, the reason they haven't gone any further is they're at the end of the capability of their signal. There's others where they haven't continued because of economics, because they say there's not enough houses.
There's only 3
after.
more houses if we continue.
Right.
Right.
So it's not worth it. But in some, the signal has a finite length of travel and a finite number of, many people say, oh, I'm 100 more feet. And it's like, well, but if you're, it's like the garden hose. If you're out of water, you're out of water. You can't squeeze more out of it. So
Okay, I'll look
it is a
in
real
my
problem.
notes and look that up.
Yeah. Another aspect of this is, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, up in Sampsonville area, there is a property that would be perfect for a private property for a cell tower. The gentleman has a contract agreement, a signed contract agreement with a company to build a cell tower, but they will not start construction or even consider it unless they can get the carriers on board. I know that's cell service, not broadband, but that is another form of ability for broadband. And also on a cell tower, you could put broadband antennas that could spread the signal. So
That was another thing I was going to ask about. And could we put, I don't know, the firehouse on Sampsonville? Would that?
It's not. It's been suggested many, many times, and it's not feasible land-wise. The only
there's
place
not
it could,
enough.
the only place it could go is not where it can't physically go there in the only open space that they
Okay.
have.
Yeah, I
Many
do
people
remember
have-
we looked at that in the past.
Yeah, many people have suggested that as a solution because they said, oh, it's a government building, but it's not. It's not feasible to put one there. Maybe different technology could be put on the roof of the firehouse. That would be another story, but I don't know. that
For
you-
some reason, I think we discussed that as well, but
Okay. Yeah.
things change. Maybe technology's changed enough that it's doable now. Who knows?
I know up in that area, there's a private citizen who would like to do a cell tower.
Well, that's what I was.
Right, that's what Mike
We're
was
probably
talking
Yeah,
talking about
I
the same
know.
person.
Maybe.
I've been counseling this person on the process for quite some time now. So, to the point that he does have a signed contract with a local company who builds cell towers, or a regional company. I won't say local. I don't want people to think it's in Cohasset, but a regional company who builds cell towers, but they're not willing to put the money out sight unseen, without having a vendor that's gonna.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're talking the same person or not, because I don't know if the person I know that has a contractor. I don't know.
Okay.
I think,
Maybe.
I think you both are.
we
Oh,
probably
okay.
are.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a lot of things, and also the contact person seems to be a moving target too. As soon as somebody gets settled in, they seem to fire them or move them somewhere else. We had this one gentleman who was pretty reachable and actually sat here in a number of meetings in the office here, but he doesn't appear to be with them anymore. So we're still trying and continuing, but
Yeah, the local or regional, whatever office did just restructure things within the last.
and I will tell you, Congressman Delgado has made rural broadband be one of his main issues and concerns, so much so that he got the head of the Federal Public Service Commission, I believe that's the title, to do a public hearing at Columbia Green Community College in Hudson last fall, which I did go attend, and it was eye-opening to this gentleman when he heard the stories of lack of broadband in this area. So,
Well, that's what I wondered, if we could isolate what we've heard and what they're supposed to do. If we had to take it to the Public Service Commission, we have proof in our contract.
yeah, but we have to have the evidence first that they haven't met it. So as soon as Mary Lou gets me that so much per, figure out where the mile starts and stops, then at least we can sit down with a map and come up with some possible question areas to say, hey, What about, the other part is too, we don't even really know where it is and where it isn't. And some people think that they don't have availability, but yet if you drive by their house, the line is there. So there's, some people have the availability, but they don't want to pay for it because it's expensive to run from the road to their house. Spectrum is not required to go more than a certain number of feet off the road. If your house is pretty far back, that's kind of on you to get it to your house.
The cost of construction, they have to pay so much
Right.
cost of
And
construction.
many people think it should just be free. So that,
I think step one is we need to do an assessment, like you're saying, Mike. We
Yeah.
need to really understand what is the need. And when I say need, I'm talking about just what you're talking about, the broadband access to the area, not to an individual home, but
Right.
what they're quoting as these $10,000 sort of projects that are cost prohibitive,
right.
And after we do that assessment, then I think we can put pressure on Spectrum and other offices like the Attorney General. We could write, we can make them other offices that could help us. The Public Service Commission, like you said, to let them know what the issue is in our community. And we might get some more results with Spectrum if we have that pressure also. And then I think after that, then we can figure out how we want to create some sort of program that would be providing access to our community members that do need it. But before we know what the issue is, it'd be hard for us to know how we can use the funds.
Understood. I would agree with that. So, okay. Infrastructure, buildings and grounds. You might remember back before the pandemic, I had put together an RFP that we kind of tabled for the moment of doing a building condition survey of all the town buildings. Now, as we're sort of starting to come out of the COVID, wanted to just get feedback from the board. Do we want to put out this RF? Do you want me to sort of clean it up and get it ready to present to you at the next meeting? Do we want to wait a little while longer, see where things go? I definitely would like to get it done in time that if we have to include anything in our budgetary process for next year, and that would have to be done we would have to have numbers into us by September for that. We can still modify the budget up until we actually vote on it, but
Cutting it close,
yeah.
that.
So September, October at the latest, we would need sort of numbers of an idea back.
Even if we're
So
not.
I'm just putting it out there. If we want to move forward with just the proposal, we could wait. If we want to move forward with doing the proposal, hiring a company, and then getting them, getting back their replies before October, we probably should move forward sooner rather than later. So I just wanted to get some feedback.
During the discussion period of the July 6th meeting, just to get it back in our memories.
Okay, absolutely. What I'll do then is I'll put it on the agenda for discussion. I'll email it back out to everybody. I'll clean it up a little bit with new dates and things, because this was done, I believe, in February when I did it. So, okay. Parks and Recreation, just to put back out there, we've failed now twice on the CDBG grant funding for parks. I kind of think we're never really gonna, for what we're trying to do, it's not gonna work for their we could look into some new playground equipment, as we talked about. We did earmark some money set aside. Adam's not here tonight, so I know he and Ashley had a lot of discussion about that, and so I'm going to defer the rest of that discussion till he can be here to give us some feedback. But quite frankly, our playground equipment was donated back in the mid 90s, I think, and it's probably time to give it a tweak.
Mike, can you refresh my memory? What was that grant? How much was that grant, please?
Well, we were first time we applied for the whole nuts and bolts. The second time we applied just for the planning process. If I remember right, it was around 400,000.
I wondered who was the grant writer? You were one at one point, and then
The first one was done by Clark Patterson Lee
right. Okay.
for us. The second year we had a volunteer, Brianna
Brianna?
Maloney, who was a
Okay.
grant writer
Okay.
for a living, and she volunteered to write it with a little bit of assistance by Clark Patterson Lee at no charge. They helped us by supplying a lot of their information from the previous year.
Okay.
But the first year we applied for the whole thing, just building and, reconfiguring a whole brand new park. The second year, we put it in as a phasing process. First year planning, second year construction, and we were denied on that one. I don't think this year, quite frankly, I'll be honest, I don't even think we're going to see those grants put out this year.
What I was asking about
State
we
funding
used-
is
tight.
beyond tight. Yeah.
Yeah, if it were available, I wondered if we, instead of doing Clark Patterson, if we wanted to look other than the woman who helped us, maybe for a professional grant writer. I don't know how much they charge, whether it's
Well,
10% of whatever.
We got professional quality in her.
Yes, I know
can
we
tell
did.
you, it was well
Yes,
done.
yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of competition. That's the bottom line. There's a lot of competition, and there's only a little bit of money to give out. And we did the I forgot the name of the word, but basically where you can log in and hear where you went wrong. And we didn't do anything bad or wrong in our grant application. We were just considered less important than other projects, and they ran out of money before they got to us. So.
Mary Lou might know one person that I'm thinking of. It would be the same person that they used in World War II. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah.
I think they might still use them, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now,
Anyway,
language
I
for-
think we're probably better off thinking small now, like redoing the baseball field like we started last spring, but then sort of stopped for the moment. We'll go back to redoing that idea, and I'll get with Adam and Ashley. And it's certainly doable for us to buy a few pieces of playground equipment and slowly start to expand it rather than doing a full blown up park expansion like we were thinking about.
Maybe, Mike, we can get funding for a kiosk by the rail trail based on Greenway funding or some different funding track.
Yeah, Greenway gives lots of little grants, 10,000, 5,000, and I agree that's very doable. So.
Mike, do you feel like the proposal done for the grant is maybe a vision we can have for the park, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I don't know if this was in that proposal, but I know that Councilman Drabkin had this great idea of doing some plantings kind of closer to the memorial site, but just some other things we could do to like revitalize the area.
Yeah, well, he's had a number of ideas. One I really liked was that he had one idea, which was adopt a tree, and he wanted to have an example. Brian was a tree guy, or is a tree guy. He wanted an example of every native species of tree to this area, and that a person would adopt that, or a group of people would adopt that tree and essentially pay for that tree to be put in. And then, you put a little sign on it and it's their tree. But his goal was that you only have one of every kind of tree. You don't have all of them. Chris.
We're still working on that for the watershed educational part.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe Chris, you might want to talk to him about this idea. I don't know if you want to insert a lot of different species into that area, but maybe it's more appropriate to do it there than here at the town park.
Yep. Do you want to transition into the next agenda item?
Exactly. It's great timing.
So I think I told Andrew Faust that concept of kind of a demonstration species arboretum style, and that works really well by the corner of the project, by where the solar panels are, as the park becomes forested. So I met last week with Mark Dietrich from the ECC, and he started inventorying bird species. And as soon as we got there in the morning, he was identifying a variety of unique species that indicate a really healthy ecosystem. And so he's going to go back sometimes at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. He's going to inventory the times where certain bird species are coming out because it's a nesting and a time for offspring right now. And then the next step is to meet with Andrew Faust there next week to make some plans with Jeff Fry on wood chips for the trail around the fence for pedestrians and bicycles. Also, Erin would like to meet me there to discuss some concepts. Just, I think all of us should meet there at some point. And also Madeline from the ECC would like to meet us or me or Andrew as we make progress.
Mary Lou, can the board ever go there as a group without it? It would have to be a published meeting, correct?
No, you can go as long as you don't talk.
Okay. So we
You can't conduct business, but you could go. I mean,
So this is a somewhat serious hypothetical. So if we all went there and Chris walked us around and explained everything to us, but we didn't ask questions,
now if he's explaining, then
we're doing business.
Then you're
That's
doing
where I was
business.
headed. Okay.
Yep.
Could
So
go
we-
individually.
I think it's better individually then.
Yes.
We just go individually with Chris. He can explain it to us. I'll leave it to people to make appointments with Chris. Or Chris, you let us know when you're ready. I don't want to rush things, but
Cool. And I would like my meeting with Andrew next week to be related to his deliverables so that we start actually marking the maps so that when I
Beautiful.
meet with you guys individually, we'll have made progress on the maps already.
Chris, you can come and get me for that walk after the first very, very cold frost. Do not do snakes.
no
well.
snakes or bears.
Got
Bears
it.
don't scare me. Bears don't scare me. Snakes scare me. I don't like snakes. Mm-mm.
okay. Thanks for that update, Chris. It's exciting. Last on the agenda, general code update. I want to sort of combine this with the task force or the comprehensive plan update team that we've put together, which had a meeting last night. And we all sat at the end of 8-foot tables, 6 feet apart, and it was very good. Everybody wore their masks. We had a good meeting. The reason we were able to meet is we're less than 10 people. And there's no public at the meeting. So, and we're meeting again next Tuesday for that. The general code update, we kind of put it all aside. And then when COVID hit, it really got put aside. I did way back in March, April, reached out to the people from general code and said, hey, given all that's going on, we're going to need some time. And they said, yeah, don't worry about it. But at some point, we do need to
Time to
go
start
through
again.
their recommendations. And I know Mary Lou is swamped right now, so I'm not even going to ask her to try to do it now. But I think
Thanks,
sometime
but it is
before-
on the it's on the list.
Yeah, and there's Aaron, to pull you up to speed on this. This was when we put our code up on general code last year. Another aspect of what we hired them to do was their legal team did a review of all our codes, every word of it, and pointed out any inconsistencies with state law, federal law, our own laws, or number of them asked questions where they said, your law says this, did you mean this? And Mary Lou and I went through every one of them. Some of them we determined that, like the taxation ones, we want to defer to Mike Dunham to get answers from him. The building code stuff, we want to defer to Jerry from him. And there's a bunch Mary Lou's going to look into. There's a bunch I'm going to look into. Ultimately, we'll come back to you guys with a document and say, these were their questions and these are our answers that we're going to send back to them. They will then take them and codify our code, and we would re-adopt our code, or we would recodify our code, which means, because right now it's just piecemeal of a bunch of, it was recodified when? back in Bob Baker days.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, late
Mid-
1990s,
90s.
early
And ever since
2000s.
then, every local law that's been adopted is just that. It's a piece of paper that's a standalone local law. This is all consolidated into one document. And so the first step was them doing that and putting it online for us, which is working well, with the exception of the fact that our zoning map online is black and white. And we really rely on the color for our zones. So I have to reach out to them and ask them if they can change that. But with the exception of that, it's done. It's searchable. It's really nice. You can put in a word and it'll find every place in the code where that word exists for you. So just more to keep it on our radar is the reason I put it on the agenda. It's Mary Lou's and my homework at this point, but I'm hoping by the fall we'll get this to them and they'll get some answers back to us and we'll go from there. And that's all I really have. Oh, one more other quick thing, the rail trail. The section between Kaiserreich and Lucas, Central Hudson had, I think, did I say this at that special meeting we had? I don't remember. Did I tell you about the wood chips on the rail trail?
I don't think so.
Okay. It was discovered that Central Hudson vendor doing clearing along their power lines had blown a lot of wood chips onto the rail trail. I was alerted by a neighbor who lived near the rail trail who came home to a note from Central Hudson that they were working on their property, went down to investigate and discovered this. Flynn O'Connor, our trail chair, went out and looked. Adam and I went out and looked. And I got in touch with Central Hudson. It turns out it was a little bit of a miscommunication. The vendor called me back, very apologetic. He had spoken with Jeff Fry about putting wood chips in. Jeff Fry thought he was only talking about this one area that's very muddy, and it's almost always muddy. So Jeff said, great, put the wood chips in there. It will help build a base. The guy misunderstood and did a major chunk of that rail trail, probably to the tune of about a half a mile, is now covered in these. They're not even chips, they're wood shreds. They're like 18 inches long, but it looks like somebody just took a tree and just splintered it. We talked to the guy. He acknowledged his mistake. Jeff acknowledged his mistake. Jeff is gonna have our guys go out and because it's easier for us to get our machine in there than it is for them. They have the Central Hudson crew has a tracked machine, which will just tear up the trail. We have a wheeled machine, so Jeff's gonna have his guys go in. If it's not done already, which it may even already be, it will be done very soon, and just sort of push that stuff to the side. It's like it's huge pieces of mulch is what it is right now, but it's really difficult to walk on, very difficult to ride a bicycle on unless you had a real fat wheel mountain bike or something. But if you get any calls or questions on it, that's the status of it, and that's why it's like that, and it is being taken care of. So that's all I have.
Wonderful. Motion to adjourn.
Here we go. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor. Thank you, everybody. See you on the 6th.
Night,
Enjoy your
everybody.
tour.